Step 2 of Zero Trust, mapping the transaction flows. Welcome to Threat Talks. My name is Lieuwe Koning, and here from headquarters at Ontoit, we bring you Threat Talk, the deep dive. And today we're going to talk about the second step of Zero Trust after last time we did the first step, and that is how do you map the transaction flows. Let's get on to it. Welcome to Threat Talks. Let's delve deep into the dynamic world of cybersecurity. Let me introduce our guest of today, Rob Maas. We know him, of course, from Threat Talks many times, and especially when we're talking about Zero Trust. Rob, we talked about step 1 of Zero Trust, and then, of course, step 2 is next, and we'll get to step 3, 4, and 5 in consecutive episodes. Let's recap briefly what step 1 was all about, just very briefly.
Yeah, so step 1 is all about defining the protect services, and protect services are the business units or domains that you want to protect. That's in a nutshell what step 1 is, and otherwise we have the video.
Yeah, exactly. And so by now, if once we've done step 1, we know what to protect. We know our crown jewels and where they are and what IPs they have or what host names, and also a little bit of a technical connotation. And now we're going to do step 2, which map the transaction flow. What is a transaction flow?
Transaction flow is, we have the protect services, and transaction flow is all the communication that might be there between two protect services or two outside. That's more or less what we're going to do.
Yeah. So and are we talking about technical connections?
No, we're still in the definition phase. So we're going to define from a business perspective what communication should be allowed and what not.
Yeah. So it's not like this IP can talk to that IP on that port. That's more.
No, we leave
later.
all the technical details out here. The technical details will come once we come to step 3 and especially step 4. This is really about the expected communication between different protect services.
Give an example.
If you have a point of sale system that needs to communicate with the backend to retract the amount of stuff that's in there. So you have an inventory, that was the word I was looking for. You have an inventory system and a point of sale system, and they probably talk to each other. When somebody buys something, the point of sale system will tell to the inventory system, please retract one of item X, so that the inventory is up to date.
There's nothing technical in that whole paragraph of text you just said. So
nice,
it's indeed
this is really how Zero Trust brings security to the business.
And why would we do it? Why do we need the step 2 before we can go on to step number 3?
Yeah, there are a few things here, especially if you are a larger organization. You probably have different business owners. So maybe someone is responsible for the point of sale system and a different person is responsible for the inventory. Then they need to come to a consensus that they need to talk to each other, and if that then is allowed. So that's step 1, because we really want to make the business accountable for the protect service that they protect. So they also should agree upon, okay, but this point of sale system is going to communicate with your inventory system. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's a way to understand about the protect service, about the system. What is supposed to be there, what kind of traffic is supposed to be there, and as opposed to we'll just connect everything.
Correct, yeah.
So there needs to be a valid business reason in order to communicate between systems.
Yeah, that's where it starts, and then later on we can use these flows to validate. So we come to step 4 later, but if there is a policy request, we can use this transaction flow to validate if communication is allowed, and if not, then we can say, well, this policy that you ask traffic to be allowed from point of sale system to the inventory, it's not on the traffic flow map. Please consult with the owner of the product.
Yeah. So then you can make sure that the operational guys that need to write the firewall rule or write whatever technical policy there is, they can have an abstracted way to communicate with the business more or less.
And we bring really the security. The business wants security. It's not the operational guys do security, they implement it and maintain it, but they do it to protect the business. So the business should really be involved, and this step will make that really clear and also really digestible for the business people.
Yeah. Can you give a few other examples? I mean, you said so from two protect services to each other. You just had an example of the point of sales to the inventory system. You also mentioned outbound and inbound flows. What's that then?
Yeah. So let's say the inventory system talks with a third-party supplier. It's a protect service that you don't manage and you are not responsible for. You can name it as a protect service, but you cannot say these are the measures we put in place. You are not responsible for that protect service. So you can say this inventory system is allowed to talk to that supplier And then you say, okay, outside is allowed. And then in step 4, you need to make sure that that policy is really explicit as a later step.
Okay, for example, if I need to, there's a mailing system that sends out mass mailings to customers, for example, or newsletters. Our CRM system then needs to send that information to that system. That would be another example of traffic flow from a protect service to some external system, and that's an outbound flow.
Correct.
Inbound flow?
Well, I think we're here in a deep dive, so probably we also have a lot of technical people listening in. Active Directory. So if I authenticate on most applications nowadays, it's using LDAP or secure LDAP, and it talks to an Active Directory server. So for if I have a protect service Active Directory, then almost all other protect services need to communicate to this Active Directory server.
Yeah, we actually visualize this for customers in a matrix where it's from to, and then you can see we put dots everywhere there is.
Where communication is allowed.
And what you're saying is if the Active Directory is your protect service, you're responsible for it, there's probably a lot of flows that are allowed.
Yeah, incoming.
Incoming, indeed. Yeah, outgoing from Active Directory?
Maybe DNS. If you have an upstream DNS server, if you use Active Directory also as your forwarding DNS. Maybe, but hopefully not an update server. I hope always that you have a central update service like Windows WSUS, Windows Server Update Services. So then only that server needs to go outbound to pull in the updates, and then Active Directory can go to WSUS. So
step 2 is also the moment where you realize that you shouldn't, that there exists very few reasons for servers to talk to the outside world except for business reasons.
Yeah, and even a lot of servers don't need to talk to each other.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is, if you map this, so we're now more or less talking about it, but if you plot this into a matrix, you will see all these dots on that matrix like you just explained. If there are a lot of dots, then we call that the access density. If that's really high, you should try and see if that's really needed, because probably it's not. And if it is really high, that also means if an attacker came in, he can potentially move a lot around, so lateral movement within your network.
Yeah, so the access density is a metric to measure the ability to laterally move.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you imagine this matrix, there shouldn't be as many dots there should be very few. And there's a couple of them are probably very connected, and those are the ones you guard most, probably. Well, we'll see about that in later steps, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, so a good example is Active Directory inbound. If you have, for example, a virtual desktop infrastructure, they will have a lot of outbound connection because your employees should be able to connect to all those applications.
Yeah. And to the internet. Probably
outside as well.
To browse the web. Yeah, but just to browse the web. But that's later for policy operation. Yeah. Okay. Hey, how do you start with this? I mean, what's a good? Are we going to analyze the network traffic?
Yeah, there are I think 2 ways to approach this. In my opinion, the best way is just to sit together with the different owners of the protect services and discuss if communication is needed or not. But that might be quite some work. So you really should do that. Just pick 5 protect services, work on that before continue, because if you try to do that all at once, you will probably fail. So start small.
Yeah, that's an important thing. You can determine the transaction flows. You can do step 2 just for one protect service, and that already gives you value.
There is kind of a circling back, because you can do it for one protect service, but if you don't have any other, you cannot define the flows. So you should have some protect services already defined. But once you have 5 or 10, that will probably be your most important ones, you can start with it. And maybe it's even a way to find new protect services that you forgot about.
Is this also what you recommend as a best practice, to start really small?
Yeah,
and
definitely.
do a few?
Definitely. I see a lot of customers struggling because they want to do everything all at once. But by making it small, you can really get some cadence in. You can also celebrate that you actually achieve something. And every protect service that eventually get to step 5, you should celebrate, because then you improve your security.
I remember maybe 10 years ago, a really long time ago, in the early days of Zero Trust, that we went to a customer, explain about protect services, and a couple of months later we went back and said, yeah, we now have 3,000 protect service defined. Help, what now?
What's next? So start small.
Start small, yeah. Just pick 5. Yeah.
And for the transaction flows, so manual do it is one way. I think it's the best way, because then you really need to think about, is it allowed or not? The other option you have is gather traffic flows and map them back to your protect services. It's also something we can do. And then you see the traffic. So let's say you have traffic logs from the last 30 days. Then you can see all the flows between the protect servers of the last 30 days. And then you can decide if it is allowed or not, or should it be there or not. I think the caveat here is that a lot of people tend to, it looks all right, let's go with it, without really considering if it is needed.
Yeah. Okay. Clear. So once we've done this for our protect servers, we know who needs to talk to me as a protect server and to whom I need to talk to. Am I now ready to go to step 3?
In essence, you're ready to go to step 3. So once you have the matrix plotted, you can go to step 3. And we will use this data, this transaction flow map, later on to validate policy changes. That's step 4. So we'll come to that. We can also, in step 5, check again with traffic logs if it matches your proposed traffic flow map. If you see traffic allowed where it should not be allowed because there's no sign on the matrix that it should be allowed, then you have to question yourself, is the policy bad? Did I make a mistake with mapping the transaction flows? So it's kind of a validation that you're doing the right things and that you really understand how your process works.
Yeah, so this work do you think it's difficult, step 2, in practice?
No, in most cases, the difficulty is, I think, finding the right persons who knows.
So who feels ownership.
Yeah, the ownership, and that should already be solved in step 1. But I think that's the challenge.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then the next step, just to speak, is in architecting the network, architecting the controls, making sure that
that's step 3. That's the next the next one.
Yeah, and we can't really start doing that if we don't know who needs access. I mean, for all you know, there's only one guy that needs access to. We did an episode on PKI infrastructure, for example. That's a very simple protect service, no transaction flows. Yeah. And that means that you're architecting your security in the next step will be very easy. Make it offline. Yeah. And then it's very cheap. Yep. So that's one reason why it's crucially important to do this step. Okay, well, Rob, thank you very much. We're looking forward to step number 3 next time. That's going to be a little bit more extensive than this episode.
Yeah, that will be more challenging.
Yeah.
Get multiple expertise around the table, and you bring zero trust from defining to operationalize.
That's where the architects are going to
The architects play a big role in that.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Well, looking forward to that. Thank you very much. Okay. To you as well. Thank you very much for tuning in to this episode of Threat Talks. Please like us if you like this episode. Helps us spread the word. We'd appreciate it. And while you're there, click the subscribe button, because then you will get step number 3 in your inbox at some point. Thank you very much. See you next time. Thank you for listening to Threat Talks, a podcast by Onto It Cybersecurity and AMS-IX. Did you like what you heard? Do you want to learn more? Follow Threat Talks to stay up to date on the topic of cybersecurity.